Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Photography Live and Uncut. It's been a little while since we met up on this beautiful Google Plus internet. I've already started to have problems yet again. So what I've just been talking to Nathan. Nathan Elson is my guest today. Welcome, Nathan, from Calgary, Canada.
Yep, you betcha.
Superb. Welcome, Nathan. Much appreciated for you joining me. But before we start, I just want to explain to any would-be listeners or probably people who are going to watch on YouTube later, if the program does fail after, we'll say a couple of times, I think we'll stop the show, and then with a bit of luck, I'll be able to get Nathan back online another time when everything's settled down. But let's cross our fingers and let's hope this show goes through okay. As I said, Nathan, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Weather's very snowy and white over in Calgary. Cold, I take it, but
well,
not terrible.
By. Yeah, it's not Canada cold. It's Canada warm right now for winter anyway. So
that's good.
Light jacket.
Light jacket, yeah. Well, yes. Probably for you guys, it probably is a light jacket. For us coming over from Europe, probably be a heavy fur-lined coat.
That's possible. Yeah,
we're a bunch of wimps over here. Nathan, let's go right the way back. The question which I love to ask my guests because I find it so intriguing. Can you recollect the first camera that was in your household when you were a kid?
I remember my parents having one of those cameras that had like the cube flash on top. Oh, I think we had our first failure. I don't know if I'm still on or not.
Have you noticed this happens every 5 minutes?
Is it every 5? Can you still hear me when that happens?
No, I can't. It just blocks out. I have to reload the page. So it's I've got viewers already. So again, my apologies, people that are watching.
Hello, everybody.
So we were talking about this sounds to me like a Kodak camera with the cube.
I think so.
Yeah.
Had like you had to throw away that flash and put in the new one type thing.
Yeah.
But and then I also remember my parents finding this like bucket of film years and years and years later type thing that they eventually developed, and the colors were all off and everything like that. But we had photos from like 10, 15 years previous that just never got developed that they found while we were moving a house one day. So it's but that's probably remember my parents, having in the household, that kind of thing. So.
And then what was the first camera that you got yourself?
Strangely enough, I pretty much just started shooting like 10 or 11 years ago. First camera I ever bought. I'm 35 now. I bought it when I was 23, turning 24. And it was a Canon Rebel TI film body. Type thing. So yeah, I ended up shooting a little, doing the, photos of benches, photos of flowers, the
type of stuff that we all start off taking.
Yeah, macro of everything, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's so I did that for a while, and that was kind of my first foray into photography. It was just I was bored and looking for something to do, and bought a camera. I had no previous indication that it was anything that I wanted to do or I'd be good at. Prior to that, it was just kind of luck of the draw, I guess.
So that's interesting, actually. So basically, all through early childhood and school, college, no interest in photography at all.
No. It was. I had a lot of friends who were musicians. A couple of friends that were into photography. Some people that painted, stuff like that. So I knew people that had kind of more artistic sides of what they did, but I don't know, none of that really grabbed onto me type thing. And and then one day, I don't know, I was just looking for a hobby and I bought a camera, and
amazing.
Now I'm here. Yeah, it worked out well.
But the first camera you bought then was a Canon, and you told me just prior to the show, before you moved into Fuji, which you're now sort of, dare I use the term, getting quite a name for the Fuji because of your appearances on the Camera Store videos, which are absolutely fantastic. You switched to Nikon?
Yes, when I started actually shooting, I guess if you want to call it professionally, I was still shooting Canon at the time, and then it was right around the time that, I don't know, the D700 Probably about a year before the D800 came out, I switched over to Nikon, and it was just basically because I was looking for something that was weather sealed, full frame, and wasn't, you know, the 1D Mark IV or whatever it was that was $8,000. I just didn't want to spend that kind of money. So yeah, I ended up switching to Nikon at that point, and then when the D800 came out, I fell in love with that camera, and yeah, so I still have one of those in my bag, and that's pretty much the Fuji and the Nikon have been my go-tos.
Okay, so then how did you get into, dare we use the term, professional photography? What led into you managing to pile a career in photography?
I don't know. It was one of those things where, you know, right around the time that I bought the camera, when I was like 24-ish, I don't know, I was just trying to figure out what my life was going to be. I had no idea of what I was going to do with my life. I was just kind of working a lot of, you know, warehouse jobs and stuff like that, making minimal amounts of money, just kind of enough to go out with my friends on the weekends type thing. And yeah, so I ended up going to university for a year, taking a year of arts and science. And while I was there, I took a black and white darkroom course. And it was very cool. You know, I got to figure out how to use the darkroom and shoot film in that way, develop all my own stuff. And it kind of, it got me more interested in photography. And then, so one of my friends had actually moved to Calgary and graduated from the photojournalism program at State College. And so I applied to that, got in, but after a year of that, found out that I hate photojournalism. I'll just never be a journalist, you know, it's not my thing. And then I still knew I wanted to do something photographic, but I didn't really know how it was going to play out. And I just, you know, I ended up selling cameras for a little while and then assisting for a bit, and just decided, you know what, my wife and I got married. We were on our way back from our honeymoon, and I was kind of getting more and more serious about it. And I just said, if I don't, I'm a very much a sink or swim type of fella. Yeah. And I just said, if I don't, you know, just dive head first into this and do it, I'll never actually do it. So she said, okay, you know, quit your job and work your ass off. And that's what I did. So,
well done for doing that. Now this is going to be interesting for some guys who want to take that plunge. How did you go about working your ass off, as you said it?
It's, I don't know, it's a little bit of luck mixed in with the proper connections with, I don't know, it's tough to explain. There's no real kind of formula for, you know, how do you manage to be able to do this for a living. I made a lot of really good friends just in passing through different avenues of life that would eventually move into positions in companies where they could hire me in order to, you know, build my book and, you know, kind of get my name out there and out there and out there. For Calgary being such a big city, it's very much still a very small town. You know, it's massive landman wise, and it's 1 million people, but you know, you walk down the street, you bump into 10 people, you know. So it's one of those things where I just, you know, I saw a niche, especially in Calgary. It's a very corporate city, and you know, there's a lot of business people and stuff like that here. And I just said, you know, I really like the fashion editorial look of things. Can I translate that into my corporate work? And I did, and it took off. And so for me, it was more or less just finding something that I could make my own, that, you know, I could be recognized for. And that got me into a lot of doors, you know, photographing the CEO, making him look like he belongs in a magazine. And then the next time they need to do an annual report, or they need to do some advertising or something like that, you know, I've already photographed the top guy at the company. So you've got
a natural lead.
So it just kind of, you know, it's a lot of long hours, but it never really feels like work. You know, everybody says that when you do what you love, you know, you work your ass off, but you never feel like you're working. But and you know, the first few years are really tough. I've been doing this full time now for just about 8 years, and you know, it's, my wife is at home with the kids. You know, photography pays for everything that we do, and it's been great. But you know, it's still constant hustle.
So you basically, when you made that decision that you were going to go for it, you'd chosen your genre which you were going to go for, which was effectively the corporate portraits for the normally for the annual reports, but then obviously you get the opportunity to do other work. Was that something which you were interested in at the start, or did you was there a particular genre that you really do like to do, but you realized you weren't going to make it as a professional using it?
Well, no, and that's kind of the, you know, I do like the editorial style of things, you know, like the more fashion editorial feel of photography. But to be realistic, Calgary has zero fashion opportunities. Like, it's just not that type of city. And so, you know, I kind of looked at it as, you know, what can I do here while still keeping true to what it is that I enjoy about photography? And so that was basically taking what I love about editorial photography and transporting it into what's available for corporate work. And so it was kind of, you know, I never really set out and said, I'm going to photograph CEOs to make them look like, you know, they're in an editorial. It was more or less me saying, I really love the way this photography looks. How can I make that happen where I am? Because as much as, you know, I love photography and, you know, chasing the dream and everything like that, I'm not going to move my family to New York. You know, I'm not going to do it. You know, both my wife and I come from very strong families. You know, everybody is very close, and I don't want to take my family away from that type thing. So it was, we like where we live. We love the city. We love, you know, we live just outside of Calgary and kind of like a bedroom community type thing. It's quiet, made up of 30-somes with 2 kids, which is perfect for us. But yeah, so I don't know. It was one of those, I didn't really have like a specific goal when I set out to do this. It was, what can I do here that I'll enjoy? Yeah, I understand. And that's kind of what it turned into.
So it's a case of you wouldn't move the family to New York, but you'll take a consignment to New York.
And I have.
Well done. Excellent.
Thank you.
Correct answer.
There's travel, and you know, I take it when I can type thing. But yeah, I've had the opportunity to shoot in New York and stuff like that, which has been great. But yeah, everything's a flight away in this day and age, right? So
I've got a good friend who lives in Calgary, Mark Grierson. I don't know whether you know him at all. He's done a book out there of 100 street portraits. Excuse me, may I? Which I believe is being sold in the camera store itself. And he told me a lot about the city itself. It's basically an oil and a gas business-based city, isn't it? So this is something which I suppose when people sort of look at Canada, it's such a vast country. We know there's so much on the eastern side with obviously Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec, but there's some pretty decent-sized cities as you go further west towards British Columbia. Yeah,
you got Calgary, you got Vancouver, things like that. You know, we got some bigger city centers for sure. No, I think I lost you again.
I think he's back now.
There we go.
I'm just waffling. That's strike 2, as they would say.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
You can't see me. Okay, just bear with me. I'm trying to get rid of. At the moment, there's 2 of me up on the screen here, Nathan, as we had before when we were doing it. So, can you see me now?
No, it's still just a frozen face. Okay,
so just carry on with what we were talking about. Calgary as regards to a city, and as I was saying, further west you go, the cities, there's still big cities there, but obviously the majority of Canada in terms of the cities are sort of on the eastern side, aren't they?
Yeah, like, I mean, for major centers on this side, you basically get Calgary and Vancouver. And, you know, they're kind of known as like the bigger hubs for this side of the country for sure. But
yeah, I think what we'll do is because we're having these connection problems, let's go straight to the screen share, because I think it'd be great to see your work there. Just bear with me 1 second while we get up, and we can, when the screen comes up, everyone will be able to see that Nathan's work here. We've gone straight to the fashion part of his website, and then we're going to go look at the beautiful mono images in the series part of the portfolio. So let's just start with some of these shots that you've done.
I can't actually see my screen.
You can't see a screen.
I see a profile photo of you smiling gingerly.
Yeah, I'm smiling gingerly. Oh my God.
Yes.
That must be that's worse than a horror movie. Okay. So there's a question now whether, of course, whether people are seeing this. Right, let's go reload on that. This is really frustrating today. I don't know why this has occurred. Yeah, I can see what you're seeing now. I've just gone to the you're going to get a double up now. I can hear it. Stop. Come out of that. Can you see me now, Nathan?
No, I still just have your Google Plus icon, the circular profile photo.
Okay. Right. Okay. What I've never had this before, actually. So let's just carry on talking, and then hopefully, if tell me when the picture comes back for me, and then that'll be the time where I can go to screen share, because I won't be able to. Because if I just do this, you just see a blank screen. There's no interactivity for the thing. I'm going to give it another 10 minutes, and then I think we may have to curtail the interview for this time, and then go on.
Sure, we'll get it figured out.
Let's. Thank you very much. Let's jump very quickly from Nikon. You're getting some present. You've been on the Canada store a couple of times now that I'm aware of, when you've been talking about the Fuji cameras. It's that question which we talked about before. Why Fuji?
Again, it was just one of those things where I was looking for a walk around camera. At the time I had my D800 with 35 mil 1.4, right, I think, on it. And, just walking around with my kids and stuff like that, it was a nightmare. So I had noticed, I'd seen the X Pro 1, and I never really thought of it as any, purchasing it for any sort of professional use. I just wanted something that I could use, as a walk around camera type thing. So I ended up picking up one of those and loved it. I don't know, it's a beautiful little camera. And, from there, it basically, the camera store, they're doing all of the reviews and everything. I've known those guys for a decade. And they just called me up one day and they said, hey, we've got this new Fuji X-E2. And it wasn't anything really related to like, hey, you really like Fuji, we should have you on. It was just basically, who can we call for this episode type thing. Yeah. And so they called me up and we shot that video. And then shortly after that, Fuji called me and said, hey, we really like what you're doing with these cameras and we'd like to work with you. And it just kind of steamrolled from there. Ever since, for like the last 2 years, I guess it's been, Fuji's been a pretty big staple in my camera bag. So
we got the question's got to be asked. Do you use it for your professional work?
A little bit of both. Yeah. I just, the problem that I've been running into with the Fuji and what I've been asking them to rectify is that I want a camera that can tether. When I'm shooting in the studio, sometimes on location, anytime I've got an art director or creative director, anybody like that on set, I need them to be able to watch what's coming in. And without the ability to tether, there's no real way for that to happen. And so I know they do it with the XT1, but I don't like the small SLR feel of the cameras. When it's an SLR, I like a bigger body. And unfortunately, that's the only one they have right now that will actually tether. So I've been asking, if they will eventually incorporate it into the X Pro 2. And I haven't gotten a definitive answer on that yet. I'm hoping it's a yes. But it's weird. I had a conversation with another guy out of LA, I think he's from, this morning on Instagram, who also shoots Fuji, and he's been asking me, hey, have you heard if X Pro 2 is going to have any of the tethering? Because it's a big deal for him too. He's another commercial photographer, and he would be able to use the camera a lot more if that was an option. So people are pushing for it, and that's kind of the only major hindrance to me not using it on some of my kind of, I guess, client jobs, professional jobs. But outside of that, if I don't need it, I've used it for client work. I've used it for pretty much all of my personal work. It's kind of my, it's my fun camera, I guess. But
it's really interesting, isn't it? When you talk about this tethering, I know there are some programs out there which you can use to interrelate between the camera and we'll say Lightroom.
Yeah.
And that's one. Am I correct? You use Lightroom for your editing?
I do. Yeah.
But it's really quite interesting when you mention it that it seems to be that they're quite happy to have it in the SLR, the DSLR version, the XT1.
Yeah.
And funny enough, when the XT1 came out, I went to the X Pro 1 on the stand. I was at the photo show in Birmingham when the XT1 had just come out, and I was immediately drawn to the X Pro 1. I just love the design and the rangefinder feel of it. But having said that, as I mentioned before the show, I've now bought the XT10, which is a superb camera for what I need to do. But I'm really surprised I haven't done this tethering. It's a strange thing.
I know, and I don't know. I just can't help. It's got to be just like a simple firmware thing. I don't understand why they haven't done it.
I'm trying to rack my brains because, it won't be. I'm sure it won't be on the XT10. I'll be amazed if it is. But you open up the door, they've got the mini HDMI cable slots there, so I don't see why they can't work something. It's got to be something to do with the. We get it. I'm sure they'll get it sorted out, because that's the one thing which I think appeals about the Fujis is this Kaizen attitude, and this where they keep regularly updating even the older cameras.
Yeah,
you've got the newer camera on board, but they're still giving you updates for X Pro 1 and XE2 and X1. Well, I think there's an X100S update, but
they don't tend to ditch what they've done in the past. They try to give as much as they can. There's obviously, I think with with the X Pro 2, there's the new Acros
that's right
preset, but they've said that won't come into older cameras because it's something to do with the way that the 24 megapixel sensor is the only way that it can properly render it, things like that. So if they can, they do. If they can't, they don't. But they've been really good at kind of keeping that was even when I bought the X Pro 1, the focus on it and everything was pretty brutal, but they kept releasing firmware after firmware after firmware, and it kept getting better and better and better. And it's just, it's awesome that they have that approach. But I don't know what the holdup is on tether.
Yeah, it'll come, I'm sure. Let's talk about your lens stable, as I would like to call it. What's the range of lenses that you've got?
I have the 16 mm 1.4, the 35 f2, the 56 1.2, and the 90 mm f2.
Okay. Did you ever have the 35 1.4?
I did. Yeah, I sold it when I sold my X Pro 1, and I sold my X Pro 1 when I got my X Pro 2. Mostly because if I'm shooting two bodies, if I'm shooting a job where I have, like two bodies with two different lenses, I want them to be the same camera. So it's, if I do it with my Nikon, I've got two D800s. If I do it with the X Pro 2, I want two X Pro 2s. It's one of those, I don't like to go through my files and find different resolutions and different renderings on, processes and stuff like that. So I knew having the X Pro 2, I wasn't going to use the X Pro 1 anymore. It wasn't going to become a backup to anything. It was just going to sit there. So, and that's, I don't know, why let a camera sit there? Make somebody use it. So I sold that. And when I got the 35 f2, although you're losing a stop, it focuses so much smoother and just operates. It just feels like it's built on another level. So I figured, with the selling the X Pro 1, I can sell somebody, a full kit. And so that's what I did.
And surprisingly, this is one thing that amazed me. The 35 f2, in actual fact, is cheaper if you were to compare in price at new than the 35 1.4. Obviously, because of that extra stop.
Yeah, but which is weird because it's built so much better.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I've seen a couple of it's a strange thing because I've seen some reviews on it, and everyone says, "Well, I'm going to lose two stops," and then you think, "Well, are you? You'd be quite happy to have 2.8 on a lens, but because you've been spoiled at 1.4 and you're coming to 2,
Yeah,
and as we know, and as sorry to interrupt you, but as we know, the Fujis operate so well at 6400 ISO, and I think the X Pro 2 goes higher than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's I haven't the high ISOs. I really haven't pushed them all that hard to see where they would end up. I tend to try to shoot lower whenever possible. I don't think I've shot the X Pro 2 higher than 800, but yeah, even when I had the 3514, I rarely shot it, you know, any more open than f2 anyway. So I didn't really feel like I was losing you know, stuff, much. Yeah. So
yeah.
No, I think I lost you.
Well, that's strike 3.
Got sound.
and normally it's a case of you're out of here. What I'm going to do now, if this happens again, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologise for this. We'll cut the show. I'll get in touch with Nathan afterwards. I'll stop the broadcast rather. I'll get in touch with Nathan, and then we'll make arrangements to have him back on. It's a great shame actually, because your in-depth knowledge of using the Fuji for me is really very interesting. The camera store setup, I just love these guys. I love the way they talk about the cameras. They're so open about them, and they're to the point across the board. And I get the impression there's no real favourite of camera that they use, but it looks a fantastic store, something which we don't have over in the UK. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's you know, the store is great. The people that work there are great. The general environment there is, you know, one of, I guess, yeah, like you could say, it's an honest environment. You know, even when you go in there to purchase things and stuff like that, they're not trying to hit you with extended warranties and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of like you say, this is what I need, and they come and say, well, these are your options type thing. It's very low pressure, kind of high educated, you know, sales, that kind of thing. But and then yeah, with the review channel, I don't know. I've sat down with them when they're talking with reps and stuff like that, and they really just they have no qualms about, you know, bashing gear to whoever it is, you know, that's presenting it to them type thing. They keep a very honest review on what it is that they're reviewing.
And that's what people want to see, because the YouTube version of having a camera reviewed for you by someone who knows how to operate a camera, that's another thing, which is most important aspect, which you know, comes across. But the thing which I love was especially when they're reviewing the Fujis, you know, the guys are talking about the image taking. Fine. As soon as we switch to the video, the guy says, "This is not a video camera." Switch back.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good fun. Great. So
it's interesting though, because you know, I did that X Pro 2 kind of, I guess, first look, because we were using a pre-production, so you know, couldn't do an actual review on it. But you know, some of the comments that people were saying was like, you know, you can't have somebody on there who works with Fuji, you know, because they're not going to give an honest review, things like that. And it's interesting because, you know, I work with Fuji. I don't work for Fuji. Exactly, you know, it's one of those, you know, I'm educated on the product because I've gotten to use it, which is why they called me. So it's one of those, you know, and Fuji, you know, in working with them, they don't want me to lie. They want me to tell them my honest truth so that they can make a better camera. And, you know, I have got no qualms. Like, you know, when I shot the 56 mil APD, I think it was for them, I told everybody, I don't get it. I don't understand why this lens exists and what makes it more expensive. It just wasn't my thing. And, you know, nobody really picked up on that. No. And when I shot the X-T10, I said, you know, it's a nice camera, but I will never buy one because I don't really like the way it feels. And nobody picks up on that. But if I say I love the X Pro 2, they're like, oh, you're biased. You're
so biased. You can't win.
Yeah, you know, so I just kind of look at it and I went, yeah, you know, I kind of expected that. But yeah, like, I mean, the big thing with me working with Fuji is that, you know, it gives me an opportunity to try to, you know, provide feedback to a manufacturer that's creating something that I use to make it better, to better suit what I do as a photographer. And that's awesome. So good on Fuji for doing that anyway. Yeah.
Nathan, I do apologize. We've whilst you were talking there, we've been dropped literally twice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apologize to everyone that's watching. Apologies to you as well. That I think it's best we stopped the broadcast. What I'm going to do, folks, I'm going to have a chat with Nathan shortly and try and get a suitable date and get back online, and we'll just have a short sort of part 2 type edition and have a look at these fantastic work. But really, what I would like to just mention, because I've got the website here.
No, I think I lost you.
I hope you can still hear me.
Now I can.
You can, okay. I was just literally saying, go to nathanelson.com to look at your work. And I'll repeat it again, nathanelson.com, to check his work out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make arrangements to have Nathan on again another time. So I do apologize. Something out there in the Ethernet is affecting my broadcast. I'm going to write a stinking letter to Google and have a word with it. Suffice to say to everyone, just stay there now, Nathan, don't go away. If you're going out shooting this weekend, leave your camera bag at home, please. Please don't do what I'm doing at the moment, taking 3 cameras out. Leave your camera bag at home, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for staying with me. All the best to you. Bye for now.